Man, I wish there was a game where I could play as an orc, but like going really, really fast. What? There's one on PC? And it just came to the Switch? Let me see. Oh, that looks so cool! I'm gonna play it right now. It's so boring. How did this even happen? Well, you'll see. The game opens up in the hangar, and one of the first things you see is a very scrappy looking plane. Okay, nice. I have no confidence that this thing is going to stay in the air, and I can't wait to try it out. Now, since I'm an orc, I have no time for instructions or manuals. I have psychic intuition, but if I crash, then I crash. Orcs grow like a fungus, so there's no shortage of these mean greens. If there was going to be a plane tutorial, it would consist of a blinking sign telling you which button you press to make it go. But instead, you're just calmly and smoothly led into an open-air area where a nasal-voiced grot may as well be filling in for your shoulder devil as he shouts every single action at you and won't stop until you do it. You then get a bit of combat against dummy planes that may as well be flying through molasses, and then you finally get back to the hangar, leaving a bit of orcishness behind. Getting back to base, you get to decide on which clan your orc pilot is from. You've got 5 canonically accurate clans to choose from. The human poser blood axes, the toughest rusty metal goths, the marketing favored evil sons, the greedy pickin' death skulls, and the obvious choice, bad moons. Your choice determines your avatar, the color of your planes, and your passive bonuses. What's funny is that I kind of forgot about this decision until my friend, who was also playing the game, reminded me about it. I think it's because the choice I made didn't actually make an impact. And by that I mean, I don't know anything about these clans. I said previously that they're canonically accurate, so I went back and looked at their bonuses, and it brought up a whole bunch of questions. I went into this game not knowing anything about these clans, and what little flavor text there is doesn't tell me everything I wanted to learn from playing the game. Why do the bad moons get discounts? What makes the goths so tough? The blood axes get a stealth bonus. You're trying to tell me that these things are capable of stealth? What would that even look like? Oi, knock it off. This was an opportunity for the game to craft arcs tailored to each clan's specialty so that we get to learn more about them. And if they all had clan-specific missions, that would take replayability and variety to the max! Or at least up a few levels. Not only do they all have the same campaign, but if you want to switch to another clan in the middle of your progress, you have to start all over again. Like, imagine reading a book, and then halfway through you decide to put on a sweater or something, and immediately forget everything you've read, so you have to start at chapter 1. Oh. And since the tutorial didn't cover a lot of the things that you're going to be dealing with in the whole game, I could only take the clan bonuses at face value, and so I simply made my choice based on the meta gaming route, aka giving me extra money so I can buy the strongest shit as soon as possible. But seriously, pick the bad moons, they get massive damage boosts to everything, so you'll finish the game faster. After that, I got some time to play with my plane. This was a cool part because it felt like I was playing with the 40k models. After all, every plane in this game accurately represents its tabletop counterpart. You have the base models, each with starting stats like the Dakka jets and Blitza bombers, and each of those has multiple slots where you can add extra junk to your plane. You have guns that fire bullets, guns that fire explosives, guns that fire energy beams, and of course, you can load up bombs to drop so many deuces. If guns aren't your style, you can slap spikes onto your plane, a ram, or a drill to rip through the sky, and anything that happens to be in it. You can also add accessories, or gubbins, to different spots in your plane, like the cockpit or engine, to improve things like accuracy, cooldown, movement, and every other stat you can think of. It's just kind of silly all the effort I put into my plane, and there's not enough in the game to test out all my tinkering. Oh, and as a little treat, the Orks have also captured planes from other factions that you can try out. But if you're playing an Ork game to not fly Ork planes, then what are you even doing here? The Warhammer 40k Orks are my favorite interpretation of that race. I'm going to be transparent here and admit that before this video, I was a shallow orc fan. I mainly liked them for their designs and some basic lore, which I didn't fully understand, but what most appealed to me was the idea that these things, whose main solution to every problem is to punch it or eat it, have been adapted to thrive in a dark sci-fi universe in the far, far future where they've developed technology using garbage that allows them to fly through space. But that wasn't enough because others were like, no! If you're gonna like orcs, then you're gonna like them properly. Read this, listen to this, paint your skin green, punch that guy, take his teeth. Why isn't your skin green? Still, thanks to those guys, I learned that these orcs have a surprising amount of depth, lore, and, most importantly, personality. It's so funny to listen to how these guys resolve things, from insubordination to organizing a galaxy-wide conquest of green muscles and gnashing teeth. They're buff, rowdy, loud boys that when they aren't beating the shit out of something, including each other, they're thinking about beating the shit out of something, including each other. And they're also psychically linked, but not in a hive mind way, which gives them access to awesome and wild energy and knowledge. Everything they build looks like something an angry teenager would make in metal shop class. But the amazing thing is that their shit works, and it only works for them. Their general tone comes through so clearly in the narrative, which is all about joining an orc crew to beat up neighboring orc crews so that you can join the biggest and baddest orc crew run by the biggest and baddest orc. Gasgul. When they talk, it's not cordial. There's always an air of hostility, with the writers and the voice actors doing a great job of capturing the grammar and sounds of our boys.
Enough scrap to start making cruisers, boss. Now listen up, you sludge for brains.
The feelings are there, but aside from the hangar cut scenes, they don't expand past that. Even though there are 5 clans to choose from, you'll always get similar dialogue, similar encounters, and the same kind of narrative progression, which, you know, makes things boring. Also, there's no music. My friend streamed the PC version and I heard some banging tracks with clear sound cues. I'm not a sound expert, but even I could tell that none of that was present on the Switch version. Sometimes I thought I could hear a very dim theme tune playing in the background, but I wrote it off because that tune just is not something I think I would come up with. Like, if I'm an orc flying a plane, I'd like to hear something like dun 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 dun. For a game about orcs flying in planes and blasting things, it's so quiet. But I wasn't left in complete silence because thankfully, several characters, including that irritating tutorial grot, are here to dish out the same handful of lines every few seconds.
Dakka, dakka, dakka! I'll get you for that! Go, good! Crap! Zogo! Blast me! Where did that come from?
Did you deliver? Did they kill? Listen to them!
Wow!
Did they kill?
That was a...
That's one more than
Zogo!
did they kill? Another one. Did they kill?
Where did that...
Speaking of the gameplay, that's also one of the things that makes it boring. I'm not well versed in airplane combat games, but this would be enough for me to second guess trying out another one. Or it might have the opposite effect in which I want to prove to myself that there are like fun airplane combat games out there. And there are many reasons for that here. One, all the missions are the same. Yeah, you'll go to different planets, but you'll always be flying around the same area doing the same kind of stuff. Destroy these structures, fight reinforcements. Destroy more structures, fight more reinforcements. And then finally destroy the important structure or the VIP unit. Sometimes you have to defend certain units, but I never saw that they were in danger, and your AI allies are surprisingly competent, meaning that they beat the already easy game for you. But the thing that makes an easy game boring is when it's so slow. This is partly because the planes don't behave like planes. They behave like spaceships. They move so smoothly through the air, and there's no sense of the delicate balance that planes need to maintain so that they don't instantly crash into the ground.
Was not ready.
All that crashing would actually be kind of on brand for orcs, but that doesn't come through in the gameplay. The movements you make are way too skillful and precise for any orc to successfully pull off. To paraphrase an orc expert, Their planes are pretty much wings in a cockpit strapped to a couple of rockets. Meaning that the pilots have to use most of their skills just to keep them in the air. If an Ork pilot gets a plane from takeoff to target, regardless of how, that's a massive success! But funnily enough, they designed their vehicles with reinforced heads because they're crash prone. And it feels good to do the most Orkish thing in this game, which is to ram and smash other planes out of the sky. The controls overall work fine, and I found myself amused by the physics-defying 180-degree stop and turn. But what made all of that stuff so noticeable was the very first boss fight against the enemy squadron leader.
I'm the squadron leader!
His plane is so small, and the area is so large, and he has so much health, I kind of got, like, sleepy just playing it. The number of times I had to fly to the edge of the map just to get him back in my sights was so many that I thought about leaving the game altogether and just tossing my Switch so I could watch that fly instead. At least I escaped what my friend went through, having to fly circles within the circles that the boss was flying in. Talk about flying around. So the reason that my friends all knew to warn me about this game is because it's actually based on the PC version that came out in 2021. So it's over 3 years later, and this port kind of looks like a downgrade. I look at the Steam page and I feel confused and a bit, like, jealous because the graphics and gameplay look much better there. Not only are the graphics in this one not as good, but they also, for some reason, ported over the PC UI, and I just feel bad for that little cursor that's so confused about being on the Switch. And there are moments where the game just doesn't work. Like, there are structures that blink in and out of existence. Objects like this force field will just not feel like they're there, and you won't know that you've hit, like, the edge of the map until the game has already grabbed you out of the air and tossed you back into it. So yeah, Orks aren't boring, and yet this game somehow makes them boring, which is kind of an achievement. The more I think about it, the more this game kind of adds to my theory that I just made up. The more amazing an idea is, like Orks and Planes, the more likely it won't be presented in the best way. Here are some examples. Dead Island, Yooka-Laylee, Outriders, Cyberpunk 2077, Redfall, Starfield, Lords of the Fallen, Jedi Survivor, Gotham Knights, Mighty No. 9, Death Stranding, Payday 3, Darksiders 3, Kingdom Hearts 3, Final Fantasy 13, Final Fantasy 15, pretty much any 3D Sonic game, and even more recently, South Park Snow Day, and Dragon's Dogma 2. That's not to say that I can't have fun with some of these games, but I'll always be wondering about what could have been. Anyway, my friend told me that there's another flying Ork game called Aeronautica Imperialis Flight Command, so there may be hope yet.
Zonko! 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 Zonko!